Hello mobile devs and welcome back to the Rising Tide. Now in this video, I'll be showing you how to create this browser inside of your React Native application. Now as you can see here, we have this browser with the search bar up, we have the tabs down to help you navigate through your application. Here you come to the search bar and you type in something. Suppose you just type in this random text and you click search. Now you can click search using this arrow button here, or you just hit enter and it's going to start your browser search. If you just type in a random letter, it's going to default to the Google search engine and it's going to try to get the response based on the Google search engine. However, if you come back to this search bar and you type in a URL, suppose you say youtube.com or www.youtube.com or http.youtube.com, it's not going to use a search engine like Google to make a search query. However, it's just going to direct you to the URL directly without using a search engine like Google or whichever search engine you want. So down here you have some tabs you can use. You can go back, you can go to your previous tab, you can go to the tab you left, you can change tabs, you can add a new tab into the browser, and you can also close out of the browser. So that is what we will be building in this tutorial. If that is interesting to you, let's get started now. Alright, so here I have a blank React Native project with just the navigation container wrapping it. Now, if you don't know how to create navigation in React Native, do check out the video. I'm going to link it up above. Do check it out if you want to learn how to create navigations, because we're going to be using it to change between different routes. So we're going to go into the terminal and we're going to install a couple of dependencies we'll need for the project. I'll create a new terminal here. I'm going to run the command yarn add. The first dependency we will need is a React Native web view. We're also going to need a React Native save area context, and finally we will need expo fonts. So say add expo fonts, add expo vector icons, vector icons rather. So this is the list of dependencies that we're going to need for the project. I'm going to leave the script to install these dependencies down below. I already have these dependencies installed, so I'm going to close this and we're going to go back into our project. So I'll close this and we're going to create two files for our project. So we'll come here, the first one inside the components folder. The first one we're going to create is the app stack to manage the application of appstack.js. And the second file we're going to create is our browser component. So we're going to create a new file and we'll say inside the browser directory we'll create an app browser. I'm just going to generate the skeletons for this. Now inside this view we're just going to import the browser. So say app browser. That's everything for this file, and in the app component we'll remove this text and replace it with our app stack. So we'll say app stack, and that should be everything we need for this component. So going back to this app browser, we're going to start designing the interface for the browser. I'm going to replace this view here with a save area view. Save area view. That's going to import it from the React Native save area context. And in here we'll replace this text with we're going to start designing the URL bar. So we'll say view star is it's a URL bar, and in here we will first of all create a pressable button for the lock icon you have in the on the left hand side. So say here we'll import an icon from Ionicons. So Ionicons icon, and the name of the icon is iOS lock flows. That one. We'll set the font size to be 15 and the color to be this green color. The color is hash 45BA8B. I'm just going to create the button. Next, we need to create the search input. So we have the text input field, and inside here, the first thing we're going to create is the value for the search string. So it's a value to the search string. We're going to create a state. We'll say unchanged text. We're going to get the text the user is entering, and we'll set the string. Let's create this state up here first. So come up here, and we'll set we'll create a use state function, a use state hook rather, and we're just going to set the string to be an empty string. And down here we'll now say set the search string to be the text that the user is typing in. Next thing we're going to set is the select on text focus, because we want it to select all the text once the user clicks on it. And then we'll give it a cursor color. You can give it any color you want to match with your application theme. I'll set it to black, and let's just give it some styling. So we can style this component to say styles.input field. And after this text component, we're going to have a conditional rendering here. But first, let's render our simple pressable for the loading state if the user is typing. So say we'll create a pressable, and we'll say in here just going to render an icon. So you say Ionicons, and the name of the icon we'll set it to be arrow forward. Give it a size of 25. I'll set the color to be the same color up here. I'm going to copy this color and I'll paste it here. I have an error. Okay, let me close this. So let's create the styles for this header component first. So I'm going to say for the container, which we're supposed to give it here. So we say style container, and in here we're going to say we're having an error that says native view gesture margin. Alright, so we're importing the long text input from here. So we're importing from gesture when we're supposed to import it from React Native itself. So this one here, save that, and that's going to resolve that error. So inside our container, we're just going to give it some basic styling. So we'll say flex of 1. We're going to give it the background color of a white, and a padding top. The padding top property, we'll set it to 10. Next, we're going to start the URL bar. We're going to come down here and we'll create a URL bar. So we'll say URL bar, and this is supposed to come from here, this URL bar. So in here we're going to set the background color. We'll set it to this hex code of F5F5FF. We'll give it a border radius of 6. We'll give it a margin horizontal, say 10. Padding horizontal, we'll say 10 as well, and padding vertical. We're going to give it less padding vertically. We'll set the flex direction to row since we want the items to be horizontal. The next thing we'll set is the justify content. Set it to space between. Space between, and we'll align the item center to give it to make it align horizontally. And finally we're just going to give it a height property. I'll set it to 40. Now save that, and that is going to create our URL bar. Now it looks a little bit too close to the top here, so I'm going to increase this padding. This padding top, we'll set it to 30 maybe. Alright, that looks good. Now we're going to create the browser itself. So in here we'll say we're going to create a view. We have a condition that we need to. We'll say if there's an error loading the page, so we'll say if error. Let's create that state up here. So we'll say use state. I'll set the value to false by default. So say if there's an error, you're going to render the error component, which will just create as a single view. Otherwise, if there's no error, we're going to create our web view component. So we'll say web view. It's going to import it from the react-native-webview library, and just going to close this for now. So this is supposed to be an else render the web view. We'll save that, and we have a browser there, but it's not going to display anything right now. So we have an error saying cannot convert value to of null. So we need to pass in some attributes for this our web view component to make sure that it runs successfully. So the first value we'll pass is the source, which we're going to set it to be a URI, or set the value to be the search string that the user passed. So we're going to create this state up here. We say const search string use state, and that is going to be the search string. Next we'll say the origins that we want it to allow. So these are the list of websites you want it to accept. So say origin whitelist, and we'll set it to accept every possible URL that the user enters. The next thing we're going to set is the mixed content mode. We'll set it to never. We also have an on error check. So we'll say if there's an error, we're going to run a function that says catch the error. So we'll create the function up. We say catch error, and we're going to give it the event.native event. event. Yes, and let's create that function up. So come up here and we'll say cons catch error. Just going to do nothing. It's going to take in the event parameter. And we're not going to do anything in that function for now. There are other functions, the other functions that are supposed to be added to this web view, and we're just going to create them real quick. So saying unload that, it's another function that you can have on your component. This can be used, for instance, when doing navigation. So you can say on when the navigation starts, you can have a function. Let's just call this one page route handler. And this is going to handle the transition of the pages from one page to another, like when the user clicks on the button, when the user clicks on a link and that page is loading. So you're going to try to store that the current route and the next route, so you can go back to it later. The next one you're going to need is unload n. Now you can create a function that handles this one. Maybe you set the is loading. Yeah, we're just going to set the is loading state to false to remove the loading animation on the page. So just say set is loading false. Let's create that function up here. So saying view state is loading. I'll set it by default to false. This happens when you click on a link and the page starts to load. So we're going to handle that later. And there are other components, values you can pass, such as if the page is loading. So you can also say unload progress. Here we'll set the is loading state to true. It doesn't require this event parameter, but we're just going to leave that there. And perhaps on scroll, you can have an on scroll. Maybe you want a function that runs when the user is scrolling. So we're just going to call a function called manage scroll, and we're going to give it the event.native event. Let's create that function up so our app doesn't break. And those are some functions that you can have. Set is loading. This one is not. It's supposed to be a capital I down here, so that should resolve that. And after this, let's create this error component. That is, if there's an error loading the page, maybe the page is not found. So we're just going to say styles.not found. And in here we're just going to create some basic text with some basic styling. So set it to styles dot subtitle, and in here we're just going to render a text saying this site can't be reached. We have a text, and this text we're just going to style it to be styles.text, and we'll say sorry you cannot reach, and we'll give it the name of the site, the URL. It will be text with the value of what the user has searched. They'll be like, sorry you cannot reach Google or any website. Check your internet connection. Internet connection, we just satisfy internet, and try again. Now inside this text we're just going to give it some basic styling. So it's a style. We'll set the font weight to 600, and we'll set the text decoration the text decoration line, we'll set it to underline. Now finally, we'll create a button that the user would use to reload the page. So create a reload button. We'll just say pressable. So it says styles to be styles.reload. And after this, we'll just set an icon. So the icon size, that is 25. The color, that's the purple. And finally, the icon name, it will be the refresh icon. So set the iOS refresh circle, this one, and that iOS refresh circle, and we'll close that. Now let us create the function we want to load on press. So set an on press function. I will say reload page. Now I already created this function above because I did this and I had to redo the recording. So the name is page reload, and this is the function here. It's just an empty function that does nothing. Alright, so once you finish creating that, I believe that is, you need to start creating our controllers down here. So down here we'll set the view controller, and in here we want to have a condition because we want to know if the page is loading to render a loading animation. So we'll come here. I already defined this is loading state here. So just going to come here and say if the page is loading, if we're inside here, if it's loading, we want to render a loading animation. So we'll set the view, I set the styles to be styles.loading animation. Now if it is not loading, we just want to now come down here and render our application, our buttons normally. So down here we just set the view styles to be button wrapper, keyboard stock, styles like button wrapper, and after that generate the end. In here we'll just set a pressable button, set the styles to be styles.control button, because this is going to be each of the control button. It's just going to be an icon. So icons. The name of this button is going to be our first button, which is the go back button. So the iOS arrow back, that one. We set the size to 24 and the color to black. So that's going to be it for this pressable for the first button. We're going to duplicate this a couple of times, but before that, let's first start this layout that we have here. So the first thing we need to style is this our view. So up here we're going to give it the style, the browser wrapper. We'll call it browser wrapper. And set the browser. For the browser wrapper, we're just going to set the width to be 100%. We'll set the height. We do the calculated height of screen height, which we're going to define up. So set the screen height because we want to get the height of the screen, and then we do some subtraction. We'll subtract 145. That is the value I use, which is the value I found best for this browser. Now let's create that up here. We will come up to the beginning and we'll create the function. So it says screen height, we set it to be equal to dimensions. We're going to import dimensions from here, and you say that get, we want to have the window height, that height. That's how you get the height of a device, that is the display window, from where the tab starts to where it ends. This is how you get the height. That is going to fix that. And now for our controller, we're going to give some stats to our controller. So come here. I'll set the controller. First thing we set is the border top width. The border top color, just set it to black. 000. The border top width. We're going to use styles, the screen, a hairline. So we style shape that hairline width. That will give it the one hairline thick style. Next, we'll set the padding horizontal property. So padding horizontal, give it a value of 20. We're going to give it a fixed height of 60, and finally we'll give it a background color. We'll set it to F5, FC, FF. It's almost white. You can call it almost white. Alright, so back to this view, let us give it some padding top to see if it is visible. So set padding top, and we'll set it to be, say, 5. Let's give it some background color. Alright, so this is our browser wrapper. Now for this one, the button controller, we have this styling. So next we have our button wrapper item. So inside here, we'll set the width to be 100%. Also set the height property. No, set the flex direction to row. Justify the content to center, and we'll align items vertically as well. And finally, we'll set the height to be 100%, which is the height that we gave 100% of this controller up here. So the icon is not displaying for some reason. However, let's just duplicate it to create our other button controller. So saying the next one we have was the arrow forward. We have the arrow forward. We have, alright guys, so this was supposed to be style, not styles. So I'm just going to correct that, and that should fix this. Down here, we're supposed to have a justify content, for this to be space between, to make the items separate from each other. So this says space between, not space around, and that should fix that spacing. Here I'm just going to paste the styling for our loading button, which will just setting the height and the color. If we come up here and we set it to not is loading, you're going to see loading animation. I'm going to remove that. And we also added some styling. Added some styling for the input field to make it to increase the font size and make it span the width of this box here. So now you can type and you see your content being written. One thing we should do is we should also set a different icon up here when the user is typing and when the user is not typing. So I'm going to come here to this pressable and I'll set the condition to if it's typing, if the user is typing on the keyboard, that is a state. Else it is just going to render. You can change this to be any button you want to render if the user is not typing, so that depends on you. I'm just going to leave it there, and then we'll come down and we'll start giving the icons for our button. So we have the forward, the back. Next one we have is the copy button, the add circle button, add circle, and finally we have a close button. So set this one to close sharp. Yes, this button. And for this last button, we'll change the color from black to crimson. Since it is a close button, we want it to have a red color. So so these are the buttons for our bottom tabs. So they look okay for now. So we're going to create the functions that we want to happen when you press on any of those buttons. So I'll say I'm on press, and I'm just going to call a function. For this first one, I'm just going to say go back. I'll define these functions up here. It's going to be similar to this one. The first one, go back. Okay. Alright, next we'll say, we're going to duplicate this a couple of times. This one will say this is the redo tab. The next button will say copy, and the final button will say exit browser. Exit browser. I'm going to link those functions to the button. So redo tab, copy, copy new tab, select new tab, create a new tab button. New tab, and finally we have the exit browser. So these are our functions. We're not going to implement the functions here, but we'll do it in the next video. Alright, coming back to this text input field, I added a function called focus, search focus handler, which is happens when you focus on this text input. So the function it's just a simple function that sets the is typing state to true. So once the guys type it, and that's typing is going to set that to true, and the submit function, which is going to run when the user is submitting this form. So it's going to search the page. I'm going to come back up here, and we're going to design the function to search the page, which is where is it? Yeah, here. And the first thing we need to do, we need to define some regular expressions to know how we're going to handle when the user clicks on the search button. So I'm just going to paste this regular expression from my other screen. So I'll paste it in here. These are 3 URL formats. That means when the user enters a string up here, if it has a format http://www.something.com, is going to open it's going to search it directly. We have the normal www, or directly the domain name dot something. So it's just going to open those directly. And else, if it is not one of those, we're going to use the Google search engine to open. So coming down here, we're going to say let the search string, let the search be equal to the search string, which is what the user has entered. We're going to trim it to remove all the spaces inside, because we don't want people to search empty spaces. So the first thing we're going to say, if the search matches the URL format 1, we will then call a function called browser controller. I will give it the search string. Now create a function down here. So we'll come here and we'll say const browser controller, going to function that's going to take in the URL that the user enters, and is going to set the search string to be the URL. That means if you type in hello and you convert it to google.com/query and hello, is going to now remove that your hello and you replace it with the new search string. That is what this function, this line here does. The next thing is we're going to set now the search. We set the search to be the URL, and this is when the user enters a URL in this format. So we're going to duplicate this line for the other method. So say else, if the search string matches the second one, it is still going to do the same thing. Likewise for the third one, and else if it is not any of these formats, we're going to say I'm going to call the browser controller still. However, here we're going to give it a Google link. So say google.com/search, and we'll pass in the query, and we'll set it to be equal to what the user has searched. So in here we'll just set the search. Now once that is finished, we now need to remove the keyboard. So we'll say keyboard.dismiss to remove the keyboard from the view, and we'll set the is typing to false to remove the arrow up. Now we're going to save that, and up here we'll now type some stuff. I'm just going to type these 2 letters and I'll click search. It's a property search doesn't exist, so where is that? Alright, so it's supposed to be search, not search. Yes. So typing this. Also know that you're also able to change the highlighting. Whenever you click on this, you see it highlights. By default, React Native highlights it to this color. So you can also come inside this search input. I believe the word is select something. Selection color. You can set it to whatever color you want. Alright, so as you can see, we're able to change the highlight color to whatever color we want when the user selects. And also, I can also change the cursor, which we did up here. We changed it to black. So once the user types in something, as you can see, it has done the search for us. Now if the user enters a direct URL, for instance, the user enters youtube.com like we did in the in the beginning, it is directly just going to load the URL youtube.com without passing it through Google. So this is it loading directly youtube.com. You can also pass in youtube.com/ and give it the paths you want to add to it. So I can say it at rising tide. So as long as it is a URL and it matches the format youtube.com, it is automatically going to accept that as the given URL and is going to use it. It's opening it in desktop mode, so it's supposed to be m.youtube.com to have it in mobile. Now my internet connection is a bit slow right now, but it's going to display the page as required. So that is it for this video. Alright, so in our next video, I'm going to be showing you how to create this functionality, such as the back button, the forward button, and these other functionalities, so you know how to navigate back and forth within the component. I'm also going to show you how to use the browser slide gesture handler, such as to draw from right to left to go back, so you don't always have to use this back button. So that's what we're going to do in our next video. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you want to see the next video. I'm only going to do it if I have enough comments inside on this video on if you actually enjoyed this video. So do let me know if you want me to continue, and I'll see you next time.